Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Good, look good. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? If you're coming in here, you're kicking it with me. Go ahead and share the live. If you're chilling on YouTube, go ahead and drop a comment. Chilling on Facebook, go ahead and drop a comment. But we hanging out. There we go. We hanging out. We chilling. Obviously, you guys can see the prompt. It's gonna be an open debate. You guys are gonna be. You guys are welcome to go ahead and hit the call that number. You guys will call that number when we talk about certain things that you guys don't agree with. If you do agree with certain things, you can go ahead on and also call in. But I would prefer for you guys to just comment in the comment section. I'd like to try to get some people that disagree with this statement on the podcast first. This is ADHD Radio. I am your host, Marcus Williams. And I do this, this is something that I do for fun. I've truly been enjoying doing this. It's actually kind of opening some doors in different areas for me within the city that I live in. Certain things that I've been talking about on the podcast. There's a lot of people that agree with. I'm trying to obviously figure out the best way to articulate myself and give you guys a great show, give you guys great things that we talk about. Robbie, what's going on? Definitely want to give a shout out to you. You've been at every single live stream so far. Definitely have been supporting the page, been supporting what I got going on, and so I truly appreciate that. As you guys can see, the timer at the top, we got about a minute until we start the show. I'm going to be talking about this prompt particularly. Again, you guys are welcome to call in with disagreements on this prompt, and we can talk about it in a civil manner. Obviously, not going to deal with too much disrespect. That doesn't mean you can't get heated and, have emotion behind the point that you're trying to explain. But I definitely think that we need to do it in a certain manner that where, number one, your point actually gets across. We can actually talk about it in a civil manner. And number two, we're not disrespecting each other. We're not putting each other in a position where, it moves from a debate to strictly disrespect. So we can start off with this prompt. Illegal immigration does not belong in the United States, and immigration is not a right. So again, that is going to be the prompt for tonight, live on YouTube right now, as well as Facebook Live. So depending on where you come in at, I'll be able to read you guys' comments. But when you call in, let me know where you guys are calling in from, where you're watching at YouTube, what you think about the show, and then we'll dive straight into the prompt. So I'm being interested in these political debates. I'm working on getting this woman named Brandy on a political debate with me sometime later this week. I've already sent her over the prompt and stuff. So Brandy, we waiting on you, baby. Can't wait to, get it going. Definitely love doing this. Love interacting with you guys. I appreciate you guys that's been a part of it with me, and we definitely about to get the show started. So go ahead on and share the live. If you are up in here kicking it, Robbie, go ahead and share the live. Drop a like. Continue to comment. We're going to get the show on the road, guys. I appreciate y'all.
I just wanna rewind. I haven't seen you in a long time. You got me feeling so lonely.
What is going on? What's going on? I appreciate you guys coming and kicking it and checking out the show. Again, we're going to be talking about illegal immigration, political debates. The panel is open. You guys are always welcome to come and join the show. Number in the top right of your screen. You guys, how you guys can call in and talk about these topics that we talk about, that we bring up on the show. I don't always think that I'm right in a lot of the things that I bring up and a lot of things that I talk about. I love my ideologies to be challenged. I love to talk about the things that we disagree on. I think that it's healthy. I think that within reason, this is how we should be having debate and discord with each other. So tonight's show is going to be about immigration law, economics, fairness, enforcement, not slogans or insults. The goal is to pressure test arguments from every side. I'm going to lay out the data that what the data suggests, where experts disagree, and where policy trade-offs show up. If you agree with my framing, request to join. If you disagree, request to join. The panel is open. I will repeat that a few times throughout the show, you know what I'm saying, to try to get some people to call in. I think that for too long we've been hiding behind these computers, and much will probably people say we'll hide behind podcast desks. I think that this being a live show really puts the things that I think and how I feel about certain things in society at the forefront. I think that I can't run, I can't hide. I have to answer these questions. Aside me, completely turning the live off, I'm exposing myself. I'm exposing the things that I believe. I'm exposing the truths and certain things that a lot of you guys get information from, especially when you get information from places like Facebook or TikTok and stuff like that. I mean, doing your due diligence is extremely important. So one of the things that I want to talk about initially when we talk about illegal immigration, and actually let me go ahead and put the prompt up on the screen. That way anybody that joins, we're going to get into that later though. Definitely going to get into that later. We're going to talk about a post that I saw on Facebook earlier today, just with some claims that weren't quite true. And we're going to debunk those because I think that it's fair for the person that made this post to know what they're talking about, to kind of know the facts behind what they're saying. I don't know where they found the post that they posted on Facebook earlier today, but I screenshotted it. I'm going to bring it up on the show, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to debunk some of the things that she said. That the person said in the post, and we're going to kind of go from there. Excuse me, that was kind of crazy. But again, shout out to Robert. This is Robbie. This is ADHD Radio. Disagreements, guys, call into that number line, and we're going to talk about things a little bit in depth tonight. Open debate night. You guys can come on and kick it. These are going to be more frequent. So I really appreciate you guys that have been supporting the show, been rocking with me. It's been really good supporters. So one of the frequent claims that I want to talk about just with illegal immigration, because I think that sometimes when people talk about the situation, they don't talk about it as a whole. Not only do they not talk about it as a whole, but they don't talk about the dangers that also come along with illegal immigration. One of the things that I want to talk about is job wage and exploitation. I have my notes that I'm going to be reading from my notes. A lot of people don't like that, but I'm going to read from my notes, and then we're going to jump into open conversation after that. There's a whole reason I'm going to put these shows together in order for me to be structured, so I'm going to continue to do that. But a frequent claim online is that undocumented immigrants do the jobs that Americans will not do. I think that 9 times out of 10, when I speak to anybody that talks about illegal immigration, or anybody that speaks about the fact that illegal immigrants, and actually I don't know what the TOS is here, so I'm going to say undocumented persons. One of the things that they don't talk about is the fact that these people are being exploited in the work field. Not only are they being exploited in the work field, but it makes it difficult for natural-born Americans like you and I to get some of those jobs, because they're not going to pay what those jobs are actually worth, because a lot of times they are able to find illegal or undocumented immigrants that will do the work that Americans, quote unquote, won't do. I think that's a horrible argument when you talk about illegal immigrants. I think that Americans, just like other countries, are responsible for themselves, and we shouldn't be importing free labor in order at our own expense. That's another form of slavery that I think a lot of people don't talk about. But anyway, labor statistics show that immigrants are heavily represented in agriculture, cleaning services, food processing, and construction labor. But millions of natural-born citizens also are on those same jobs. So the claim that illegal immigrants do the job that Americans don't want to do is ridiculous and very untrue, because there's again millions of U.S. born citizens that work in the same fields that undocumented immigrants work in. Now, when we talk about that, we also got to look at those jobs, because a lot of those Americans that are working in those jobs are also subject to the fact that if we look at the balance of that job, and we have more illegal immigrants than we do, or undocumented people than we do natural born U.S. citizens, where's the urge for that employer to pay a fair wage? Not only pay a fair wage, but also make sure that those workers and employees are they're following safety protocols, and making sure that these guys are taken care of, paying them the right wage, paying them on time, paying them overtime. I think that all of those things fall into illegal immigration, and you guys have to realize that you also, when you say things like they do the job that Americans won't do, that you are advocating for a form of slavery, and not only are you advocating for a form of slavery, you are also realize that you are exploiting these people for the work that you feel like Americans won't do. That is a horrible explanation for thinking why illegal immigrants should be here in the United States. I think personally that if they come in the right way, they have the avenue and the access to more benefits, to more things than they do if they come in illegally. I see somebody else just came into the podcast. I appreciate you coming kicking with me. I'm live on YouTube as well as Facebook. You guys, if you have any disagreements with the prompt, you guys can call into that number real quick. I will have you up on the show. After I bring you up on the show, you can state what you disagree about it. After you state what you disagree about it, we could talk about it a little bit more in open debate. But economics usually argue that sustained labor shortages push wages upward, which I think would be a benefit to not necessarily having illegal or undocumented people working in certain fields, because when those jobs are vacated and those aren't being filled, it pushes them to push the wage up. It puts you guys in a position to where. Are you okay? It puts you guys in a position to where you as an employee can now set the standard or the base for what you would want to get paid for a job like that, instead of letting it be up to the employer who's hiring illegal immigrants, not only hiring them, but hiring them and paying them a much less wage than they should be paying. But that leads to a legitimate policy question. Does access to unauthorized labor suppress wage growth or change working conditions in certain industries? And so to explain that question a little bit better, what I'm asking is, do you guys think that when employers are hiring illegal immigrants or undocumented people and they're putting them in these positions to work, they're not paying them the correct wage, how do you think that that benefits you when you want to go work into that specific field? Or if it's a job that most Americans don't want to work, you have to realize that the people that do work that job are also put at a disadvantage. That is not a good argument to say that illegal immigrants should be here because they're hard workers. They would have such a better outcome and such a better lifestyle as an American if they came in through the proper channels and did the correct paperwork and the right documentation. Another rarely discussed dimension is vulnerability. Workers who fear deportation may hesitate to report wage theft, unsafe equipment, abusive supervisors, which is also an issue inside of places and employers that hire illegal immigrants. They don't take care of them. And then when they do have a complaint or they do want to bring up something to a higher up or to somebody that's in more authority, how do you think they can go about doing that without being threatened with deportation or even just simply being fired from the job that they have when this is their only livelihood? So they are at a huge disadvantage when you put them in situations where they don't have the same accesses and the rights that you have as an American. Excuse me. And the claim that they do the jobs that Americans want do is just not a solid argument when you talk about illegal immigration. The dynamic can benefit unethical employers. This is where controversy enters. Is the economic quality dependent on illegal labor because it's cheaper and easier to control, or does removing that labor harm industries and consumers? So again, I invite you guys that have a disagreement with the prompt to come up and call in, talk about things. If you guys agree, you also welcome to call in and talk about the prompt as well. But everything that I just said right now is something that anybody that brings up the argument that illegal or undocumented immigrants, and I don't understand why the word illegal is such a big deal. They're illegal immigrants. It is what it is. If I'm a criminal, if I'm a murderer, I get the label tag as a criminal or a murderer. It doesn't change because it hurts people's feelings. I honestly think that we need to get back to a norm of being able to hurt people's feelings without getting canceled or being fired and XYZ. All of us are entitled to our own opinion, but I think that law and order is extremely important when we talk about these things inside of society, inside and outside of just natural cultures and norms. We should all have a base for what we're willing to accept and what we're not. And right now, fortunately, it's illegal to come into our country unless you come in through the proper channels in the correct way. So a lot of times I want you guys that when you talk about illegal immigrants and them doing the job that Americans don't want to do, that you are advocating for a form of slavery, that you're advocating for exploitation, and they don't actually have the upper hand that you think they have. They're in more danger. They're at more of a risk of being taken advantage of, being an illegal immigrant, than they would be if they come in through the proper channels. Now, agree or disagree in the chat, Robbie. I know that at least you're still in here. Let me know what you think about what I just said just now when we talk about the wage problem when it comes down to illegal immigrants. Not only that, but as far as the exploitation of them, the fact that they can't report certain things the same way that you and I as American citizens can when it comes down to unsafe equipment, harassment, when it comes down to just anything that you want to report, because the fact that they can be deported is used and held over their head. If you guys are kicking it in here with me, if it's whether you're watching the show after the live or you're watching right now, go and follow ADHD Radio. That is going to be the homepage for all of our podcasts. I'm doing it on here tonight because I'm trying out some new technology, not technology, but a new way for me to put the podcast to multiple streams. That way I'm not streaming to just one specific one and having to upload to a million different ones. I appreciate that, Robbie. I see your comment. Again, you guys are always welcome on the show. The panel is always open. Whether you catch me after or during the show, drop a comment, whether you agree or disagree in the comment section. Again, later on in the show, we're going to go over one of the posts that I saw on Facebook today. And we're going to dissect that, debunk it, and go through some of the things that this lady talked about. But next thing that we're going to just kind of talk about is lawness, fairness, and compassion. Another central debate is whether personal circumstances override how someone enters the country. Current U.S. law still requires authorization to enter and work. Political debate is not whether rules exist. The political debate is not whether the rule exists. It's whether they should change. Where emotions rise is fairness. Where emotions rise is fairness. Citizens competing for housing or public services, legal immigration, waiting years and paying fees, and communities funding schools and hospitals versus humanitarian concerns for migrants fleeing violence or poverty. My personal thing is you guys can't just come to our country, or illegal immigrants can't just decide to come to our country because their life sucks somewhere else. That's not a good reason. That's not a good reason at all. Osama bin Laden might have thought that his life sucks somewhere else. Leaving the front door open for anybody to walk into your house, it never happens. You guys lock your doors every night before you go to sleep. You lock your cars every time before you go into the grocery store. I'm literally confused as to how it's any different when we talk about a country, when we talk about things like the law, when we talk about things that are acceptable and not acceptable. And I want more than anything for you guys to explain to me, why is it okay for undocumented citizens to get a better situation than normal Americans? A normal American can't break the law and say, hey, I went into the Walmart and I stole some food because my family was hungry, without facing the consequences of that law. If we get away with it, then we're talking about the same situation as far as illegal immigrants that stay here without getting caught. Eventually, I will have my day in court. Eventually, this will catch up to me, especially the longer I do it, the more often I do it, it'll eventually catch up to me. So to sit here and say that you think it's okay for an undocumented person to come into our country, put strain on the systems that we have, and take jobs away, influence wages to be actually lesser because they have no leg to stand on. Where was I going with that? Sorry. Versus the people that come in that are fleeing violence and poverty. I think that to a certain degree, I mean, we can only cure so many problems and so many situations that go on in the world. We are not the world's big brother. Like, we cannot save everybody. There was just 14 people in New York that died because they were outside homeless during this last cold front that came through, or the winter that they're living. They're living in New York right now. They're homeless. They have no place to stay. I care more about those Americans than the ones that were bussed up from Texas and Florida, put into a hotel room where there was heat, where there was water, where there was free food, where they were taking care of them. I care more about the Americans that are dying on the side of the road than I do about illegal immigrants that are coming into the country, and we're supposed to all of a sudden feel bad for them simply because their life sucks. There's people here in the United States whose life sucks. I care more about a person that can't retire right now because Social Security benefits aren't in the correct place. I care about the fact that we're taxed overly and we can't put money aside to save for a house. How many people you know right now that have a house? How many people you know right now have a savings account, can actually afford their car note from month to month? I'm not saying that illegal immigration puts strain on all of those things. I'm saying I care more about those things than I do about somebody else coming over here getting a benefit of the doubt. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their intentions are whatsoever, than the Americans that are dying on the street in the place that I live right now. We can't even get along with each other over the fact of our skin color, yet and still we'll give somebody the benefit of the doubt who we don't know what their morals are. We don't know what they think. We don't know how they feel about Americans. We have no idea. But hey, open the door to any and everybody simply because we feel bad is a dumb excuse and a dumb argument to be having on Facebook right now. You guys are advocating for ICE to be attacked by citizens. There's a proper way to do everything. There's a proper way to do everything that you guys like. There's a proper way to do things that you don't like. Attacking police is never going to de-escalate a situation. If anything, it's going to escalate it way beyond what a lot of you guys actually want to deal with. You don't get a pass because you're a good person. I don't get a pass because I'm a good person. Most Americans don't get a pass because they're good people. You don't get to choose which laws are okay to break, which ones are good, which ones are okay for us to turn a blind eye to, simply because of whether or not we know the person or if we have a bias towards the subject. So again, if you disagree, the number's on the screen for you guys to call in. You guys can come in and come talk about some of the things that I'm talking about right now. But I'm gonna keep going with the show. I appreciate you guys that have came and kicked it with me so far. Robbie, you know the MVP, real MVP. Policymakers are pulled between compassion and deterrence. Weak enforcement may encourage dangerous crossings. This is what I've kind of always alluded to and what I've always talked about when we talk about having an open border. I don't think that anybody living here should also get a pass once they're caught. Excuse me. Smoking that gas, man. I got cotton mouth like a mug right now. I don't think that those people should get a pass simply because we feel bad for them. And also, we're opening the door for anybody who also hates America, doesn't like America, doesn't believe in our policies, doesn't have the same belief systems that we believe. And I think that that's a huge part of migration. When you migrate into a society, there's a huge difference between colonialization and immigration or migration to a certain country. When you migrate to a certain country, you fall under the same laws, rules, expectations that they already have set in place. You don't get to come and implement your rules and your laws and try to adjust things and turn it into what you want it to be in a place that you're migrating to. If somebody came over here and conquered the United States, which would be hard to do, took over our land, all of a sudden we were Chinese or something now. At that point, colonialization, excuse me if I'm butchering the word, is totally different. Now you make the rules. You've conquered the land. We have to abide by the things that you've done because you won. When we talk about the stolen land theory, I don't hear anything more than somebody lost. When we talk about Native Americans, when we talk about Civil War, you guys got to realize that we would still be living in Jim Crow era. We would still be living under slave laws had the South won the Civil War. War is not about how you feel, it's whether or not you can win. If you can't win, it is on you. Point blank, period. We cannot leave our borders open for any and everybody to just decide to come into it. That doesn't make any sense. I know it sounds harsh. I know it's not something that necessarily everybody wants to hear or even what everybody necessarily believes, but that is a ridiculous take to think that it's okay to let anybody come into our country. That's number one. The pressure question becomes when does compassion undermine rule-based systems? And when does enforcement become excessive? You guys can call in. We can talk about ICE. I'm really going to end up circulating this on TikTok soon. I seem to get a lot of engagement through TikTok, but we can talk about anything, guys. When we talk about ICE, we can talk about their enforcement. What you guys think about the Renee Good or Alex Pretty situation? I personally think that play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I can dive more into that if you guys want to talk about that as well. But the call-in number's on the screen. You guys are welcome to come and join the show. Say whatever you want to say. Talk about anything that we're talking about right now. We'll try to stay on point, of course, but you guys can bring up anything that you want to bring up. But I think that's what it boils down to more than anything. How do you guys that are so okay with illegal immigration know the difference between a person that's bad walking across the border and a person that's good walking across the border without due process? And I understand, I've heard the argument a million different times where we already have criminals here in the United States. That makes no sense. That's a stupid argument. There's criminals across the world. That's not going to change whether or not we bring in more illegal immigrants or not. If anything, we just have, because we can't give those guys the benefit of the doubt, we have to play devil's advocate and assume that most of them are bad, because if you were good, you would come in through the right way. We sit here and we talk about whether or not the process is for coming in the country as an illegal immigrant. Should it be easier? Should it be harder? Should it be, more accessible to more people? And I don't really know why people think that it should be the easiest thing to do. I don't know why people think that you guys should just be able to come into anybody's country and live there simply because your life isn't going the way that you expected it to. Again, I can have empathy and I can sympathize with people who doesn't necessarily live here or have the same life that we have here as Americans. But I'm also not willing to hand that out to any and everybody just because they have a sad story. So again, I appreciate you guys that came and kicked it with me. The prompt is: illegal immigrants do not belong in the United States, and immigration is not a right. Open debate. We're chilling. I'll probably be on here for quite some time right now. That prompt will stay up. We're talking about certain things that obviously I believe, but we're also talking about it from a fact-based standpoint. I'm not talking about it just from emotions. Again, I can sympathize with Renee Good losing her life. Do I think that she put herself in a predicament to where her life could have been lost? Absolutely. Do I think that Alex Pretty put himself in a predicament to where his life could have been lost? Absolutely. All in the name of what? Because a lot of times when we argue this point, when we argue the point of illegal immigration, a lot of people seem to want to keep the prefix illegal out of the conversation. Nobody is looking to detain or arrest American citizens or legal immigrants. That is simply not happening. The people that are getting in the way and impeding what ICE has going on, getting in the way of what they have going on, fighting them, throwing things at them. Mind you, this situation, this problem with the protest is not going on in Florida. Why don't you guys go look up what their sheriff told them about how things were going to be handled in their county? This problem is not in Texas. Why don't you go see how they're handling things in their counties? Way bigger problems to talk about, especially when we talk about places like Minnesota, like the Somali fraud going on right now. Nobody that is literally not the forefront of conversation whatsoever, and that affects literally every single one of Americans, taxpayers, hard workers, people that go to work, and that's the bracket that you're in. A lot of times we argue about things like billionaire problems. We argue about things that have absolutely nothing to do with us, and we completely disregard the things that do. You guys, we're out here marching right now for people that we don't know, people that we have no idea what their intentions are, how they're going to come, how they came into the country, being illegal. I can care less about everything else under their belt, whether they're a hard worker, whether they came here for a better life, or anything else for that matter. I simply don't care. And there's no other place that you can go and move to today or tomorrow that is also going to give a fuck. Or one that you want to. I mean, I talked to a lot of Americans that are on the left side. I'm not left, right, Republican, Democrat. I'm not even pro-Trump. I'm pro-America. I mean, I know that a lot of people don't really understand what that logic is. I don't hate Trump. I actually don't think that he's doing a bad job at all. But I also think that the allegations and the constant bullshit rhetoric that's constantly the only thing that it's doing is pinning us against each other. Americans need to fight for things that Americans want over fighting for things that have nothing to do with us. You guys, I'm sure that a lot of you guys, at least the ones that work, would like to pay a lot more in taxes. I'm sorry, a lot less in taxes every time that you get paid. I'm sure a lot of us wish that housing was more affordable. I'm sure that a lot of us wish that, you know what I'm saying, daycare and childcare was more affordable. That we're not paying the exact same amount for daycare as we're doing for mortgages and rent. I haven't seen a march for that yet. I haven't seen a single march for that yet. If you're in the chat and you disagree with the prompt, go ahead and give that phone number a call. We can talk about it. It's open debate night. We just kicking it, chilling, live on Facebook as well as TikTok. Robbie, I know you're kicking it with me right now. If you can't stick around the whole time, I totally understand. I'm probably going to stay on for about an hour or two, possibly anyway. Just kind of talking about this subject in depth in general. I know a lot of people may or may not comment. I know some people may still be at work, and that's fine. But I mean, these are topics that we should be talking about. When we talk about ICE in general, I don't think that they're doing a hard enough job. I don't think that, honestly, you guys, I mean, we've seen videos with local police officers that don't tolerate some of the stuff that you guys are trying to make ICE tolerate. Those are federal agents. I'm trying to figure out how we can expect, like, I mean, you guys can almost expect, if you get in the way of police, your local police department that are doing an investigation or trying to make an arrest, you can almost guarantee that you're going to end up on the ground in handcuffs as well. Why do you guys think that it would de-escalate or go down any with ICE agents or with federal agents? I think that's a crazy, crazy, crazy concept. Super crazy concept. And then also, I think that another thing that we should be talking about is appreciate you liking the live, Jasmine. If you in here, Jasmine, you can give that number a call too, because I kind of saw your post a little bit earlier, and I'd like to talk about some things that are on that. You're welcome to come on the show. I don't know if you're in the pod or not, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead and give that number a call. We could definitely talk about some of these things from your perspective if you are kicking it, and if not, we might talk about the posting. I see, Taylor, I see you made a comment. You said, I just don't get how we're supposed to fix the internal problems here in the U.S. if we just allow people to flood in, and that is what people don't understand. And that is kind of what I was hitting on just a little bit ago as well, is the fact that I care about those things. I care more about look up right now, there was just 14 people. You guys can fact check this. 14 people in New York that died. I believe it was Brooklyn. I could be wrong. That died because they were out in the cold, had nowhere to go during the cold storm, the cold blizzard, or whatever. The one that just came through, everybody was all tripping about. We didn't really get much here in New Mexico, but everybody was tripping about, the fact that that snowstorm or that cold front was coming through. when Texas and Florida bust illegal immigrants up to New York and other places like that, I believe it was in the winter, which was still wrong. I don't think that that was right at all. The first thing that a lot of those sanctuary cities did was give those people hotels, food, a place to, you know what I'm saying, be able to take a shower, a place for their families to be able to go. And do I think that that should be awarded to them as, you know, a human right? Yes, but that is an empathetic and a sympathy standpoint that I just don't have. I think that at the end of the day, from that point on, where they should have bust that bus was to, you know what I'm saying, ICE enforcement and had those people checked and deported. That's what I think should have happened. I think that Americans should be awarded the same things that a lot of people try to award illegal immigrants by trying to tell them that they are hard workers, or that or trying to say that they're hard workers, or that they should be given these things simply because they're hard workers. I don't really understand how that makes them any more valuable than an American person that also can't afford the things that we're talking about. Like, I mean, I don't understand why we should give that to them on a silver platter. I also think that illegal labor is I mean, a huge problem when we talk about illegal immigrants. You guys have to look that up and have to look into it. How much illegal labor, and the fact that these guys don't have a voice, they don't have the ability to go back and talk to some of their employers, or escalate certain situations that may or may not happen when it comes down to sexual harassment, abuse, unsafe work environments. Who do they escalate those complaints to as an illegal immigrant? I think that they should be able to have the same ability to report certain things that happens to them, bring those things up in the right settings and through the right channels, the same way that we do as Americans. And the only way that they'll be able to be given those same and awarded those same liberties is if they do it the right way. I can't feel bad for somebody. I mean, I guess I can feel bad again. I personally don't really have much sympathy and empathy for a lot of things. I think that at the end of the day, I mean, obviously life is not fair. You know what I'm saying? Like we all pull, you know what I'm saying, the short end of the stick at some point in time. All of us do, you know, and I think that life is what you make it. I can't be upset for somebody that's 30, 35 years old, that's never applied themselves in life, that has never done nothing with themselves, and then expect them all of a sudden at 35 years old to have their life together, have life skills, work skills, and stuff like that. I almost have a only the strongest will survive mentality. I don't think that anything that I work for should be going to anybody else. If that's the case, we should just barter and trade again. I shouldn't have to clock in for 40 hours a week, 80 hours every 2 weeks, you know, 160 a month, and I work every day, you know. So personally, I think that if that's the system that you guys want to live by, let's just go back to barter and trading. What's the point of me clocking in and out for my wages to be taken away from me? Literally, and you guys have to realize, again, I'm not saying that illegal immigrants contribute to the reason why that we pay high taxes and the reason why the housing problem is such a big issue. I just want to know why we're not marching for that. I want to know why we're not standing up to the government for those type of things. Why can't we get regulations put on landlords and these billionaires that come into you guys' city and they buy up subdivisions and housing blocks and they rent them back to you forever? You never have the ability of look up on Zillow right now, unless you live in the city. Unless you live in the city, even if you live in a city, look up right now. I can guarantee you that there's not barely any houses that you can buy, number one, or even in the ones that you can find, they're all for rent. Every last one of them are for rent. Every last one of the, you cannot go and buy none of these houses anymore. Those are the things I feel like we should be marching for. Those are the things I feel like as Americans we should be talking about. We fight each other here over skin color. Now y'all fighting each other over letting somebody you don't even know in, and guess what? They skin color darker than mine. They skin color darker than mine. I haven't yet. I mean, and we're not fighting for each other here in the United States. We're not fighting for we're not fighting for our elderly. We're not fighting for our youth. I mean, we are literally destroying our country from the inside out. Is legal labor a humanitarian necessity or an exploitative system? When I ask that question, I'm wondering because a lot of people, again, Taylor, I don't know if you were in here when I first started the podcast earlier. I'm just trying to catch a flow, try to get some people to call in to this number. I really want to do some live debates tonight. But when I was talking about the fact that how illegal immigrants in the work field also affects working Americans, because millions of Americans actually work in the same fields that illegal immigrants work in. If that number even becomes to 50% to 50%, you have to realize that your wages are being affected by the fact that they can go and hire these people at pennies to the dollar. They don't have to worry about giving them any training. They don't have to worry about making sure that they're taken care of or anything of that matter, and they can pay them pennies on the dollar. They will then you as an American will go and try to apply for that same job, try to sit across from them and tell them like, hey, actually, I think that the minimum wage is $17 or whatever, depending on where you live at, and they're just simply not paying that. That's not what we're paying. We got workers that'll do this job for $10 an hour. So do you want it or not? I think that those are things that we need to think about when we think about illegal immigration, when we think about the fact that you guys are so okay with that. You guys are anybody that, in my personal eyes, anybody that's okay with illegal immigration are also okay with sex traffickers, that are also okay with people, illegal immigrants being exploited, harassed, being taken advantage of, not being paid the correct wages. They simply can't pay into, they're paying into a system that they can't pull back out of because most of the time they're using the wrong social security number. They're using somebody else's identity, which is also a secondary crime. So if you care that much about illegal immigrants as much as you say that you do, you would care more about them coming in the correct way than you do about them than you do with them staying the wrong way. Taylor and Robbie, I appreciate you guys that's been kicking in with me in the podcast, man. Chilling. Go ahead and drop another comment real quick. Anything that you guys can think of, something that maybe I have missed or something that I didn't bring up. Just throughout my opening monologue, just throughout talking a little bit about illegal immigration in general. Some of the things that you guys hear on Facebook or some of the things that you may have heard on Facebook, I do want to talk about those things. I want to talk about them in depth. And again, if you guys disagree with the prompt, the number at the top, 505-300-0367, you guys can come on the show. We can talk about this in an open debate forum. No disrespect, no going crazy, like obviously, no, you're good, Taylor. No pressure, bro. Obviously, definitely want to come from a respectable standpoint and talking about two different perspectives, but I don't want to cause a problem. I mean, I don't want to be disrespected. So, and then another thing that I might do is Taylor and Robbie, if you guys want to, because what I might do is I might move this the debate over to TikTok. On TikTok, I get a whole lot of a lot of reactions. A lot of people coming over to talk about certain things. So that's where I might bring this to next. But I'm gonna be debating all night. I'm gonna probably be debating for the next 3 hours. Facebook, I don't really get as much traction because a lot of people scary. A lot of people don't want to talk about this in depth. They just want to feel how they feel from their platform and their Facebook and their safe space where nobody's gonna tell them they're wrong. Nobody's gonna tell them that they sound stupid. No one's going to tell them anything that they don't like to hear. Coming on here puts them in the spotlight. Coming on here puts them in a position where, okay, cool, Taylor. I'll shoot you my TikTok to your DM. That way you can come and kick it too. And literally about that, I'm just going to have the same conversation over again over there on TikTok. And I'm sure, positive people are going to pull up. But I think some of the things that I hit, I've been on for about 30 minutes. I think some of the things that we hit are all good points. I think that every last one of those are good points. They're hard to refute. They're hard to they're hard to talk about without saying that I'm right. And I mean, honestly, all of those things are 100% correct. When we talk about illegal immigration, you can't talk about those things without kids. Really, kids is a huge factor when we talk about border crossings and openings that come over that are being sexually exploited, that are being essayed, taken advantage of, as well as women. Robbie said 17 years or so ago, they voted for Barack Obama that ran off deportation. No protests. When he split up families and put kids in cages, they only do it now because they hate Trump. I'll get this. Hell yeah, Taylor. I appreciate that. Robbie, as far as with your comment, and it's funny because a lot of people will sit here and say that they were outraged and they were upset. I can remember like vividly, and I was a kid when this all happened. Them going through, I don't want to say the camps or whatever. You're 100% right on that, Robbie. They were going through the camps. They were talking about Obama deporting the illegal immigrants, and they were so like not even upset, but just all the cages. I remember it was the cages. That was the big deal, the issue that was going on with Barack Obama, the cages that everybody was in. But I don't really understand what's the difference in somebody here in America that commits a crime and has to go to jail or has to be taken away from their family. How is that any different than an illegal immigrant being taken away from their family? Same with birthright citizenships. I don't think that personally, just because you're born here, you should get citizenship. I don't think that if your parents are not Native Americans, like Native Americans, they live here as far as like me. I'm a Native American. Um, Not in the sense that like a Native American as far as like Indian or whatever, but I was born here. I am American. I'm native of this country. As my wife is born here, native of this country from here. At that point, I think that kid should get citizenship if they're born here because obviously both of their parents are citizens. I think that just because you come over here and happen to have a baby fall out of you, that doesn't give them citizenship in my eyes. I don't think it should. But again, I see how I don't necessarily like that law, but it's still a law. So I'm not going to sit here and try to go out here and protest and trip about it because it's still a law. Same way with illegal immigration. It's the law. It is what it is. You don't have to like it. But, I mean, going out here, y'all going to end up like a lot of these other people that's in it the last couple of weeks go and try to fight these police officers, go and try to get into it with them. You're not going to win. Simply not going to win. So what I'm going to do now is this Facebook did. And I really want to get some. I want to get some action going. I want to get on this. So in the chat right now, Robbie and Taylor, that is my TikTok name. On TikTok, you guys are welcome to go head over there and just go ahead and add that page. Give me about 10-15 minutes to get the prompt put up and get us into that over on TikTok. I think you guys are actually going to like that a lot better because it's going to get intense. It's going to get extremely intense. But anybody else that's kicking in with me as well, kicking in here, because I know that some of you guys are probably just watching for your main screen. Yes, I'm talking about you. Specifically, the ones that's hiding. Bring your ass on. That's my TikTok as well. So you guys can come over there. That's where we're going to be next, debating the same exact prompt. I'm going to start exactly from the beginning, talking about everything that we kind of ran down. So sorry, Robbie, I know you've been here for a minute, but we're going to recycle a lot of things that we just talked about just now over there on TikTok. Try to get some people up on the panel to talk about these disagreements as well. But I appreciate you guys more than anything. Everything that I talked about just now, you guys can continue to comment about in the comment section, and I'll bring them up on the next show as well. But I appreciate you guys for rocking with me, hanging out with me, and I'll holler at y'all soon.
I just wanna rewind. I haven't seen you in a long time. You got me feeling so lonely.